Superman faced Doomsday. Doomsday was killing everything that moves. And Superman can't remember when's the last time he faced something strong like this. Finally, after he couldn't handle it, cause he's tired and bleeding, Superman grabbed him, flew to space, and did the biggest spine buster in history, and finally, Doomsday is dead. But sadly, so does Superman. What will happen to the world and Metropolis without Superman? Well, stick around to find out. But of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Our story begins with Lois Lane discussing the article she wrote with her boss. As usual, she's attacking Lex Luthor with no evidence, and that's why her boss is not gonna publish that article. When she came out of the office, we see Clark, who's supposed to go to Afghanistan. Meanwhile, in an unknown place, we see a scientist squad digging in the ground, and finally, they find something like a ship. And then we see Luthor's assistant telling him that they hit the jackpot. In the South Pole, Superman was trying to find a cure for cancer, but he told Kelex that he can't find any cure. He can literally do anything else. But he didn't manage to help mankind in their fight against cancer. That's when Lois Lane entered the room, and we now know she's Superman's girlfriend. But she still doesn't know that he is Clark. She's just doubting. In the cave where the scientists found that spaceship, they were shooting live so Luthor can see what's happening. But while they work, they accidentally made a hole in the ship, and an alien hologram showed up and speaks with a strange language. But one of the scientists managed to notice it's a warning message. That's when a strange creature showed up and started to kill everyone in that cave. And that was Doomsday. He was programmed to kill anything that moves, and then got out of the cave and started to destroy everything in his way. Luthor ordered his assistant to remove anything in that cave that proves LexCorps was there. Meanwhile, Lois was asking Superman to tell her about his secret identity, and he was gonna tell her, but that's when Kelex showed up to tell him about what's happening in Metropolis. The army was getting ready to fight Doomsday, but they never learned not to fight any aliens. Superman landed in a building far away from the scene to drop Lois cause he fears for her safety, and went to see what's happening. The fight starts immediately. Superman punches him a lot, but it was like nothing to Doomsday. He started to beat Superman, threw him here and there, destroying many buildings. But Superman stands up every time and tried to bring him down. But with every punch, Doomsday gets more angry. Lois talked to Jerry to get his camera and got into a helicopter and flew to the flight site. So when Doomsday saw the helicopter, he tried to destroy it, but Superman managed to save Lois once more. Lois tried to prevent him from continuing the fight, but that's why he's here, and they continue, and for the first time in Superman's history, he started to bleed, and he can't continue anymore. So he decided to do one last thing, his final move. He grabbed Doomsday and flew to space. When he reached the highest point he can, he grabbed him and pushed him as fast as he can to Earth. The impact was massive, but luckily and finally, he managed to kill Doomsday, and a lot of people were saved because of Superman. But due to his injury, Superman took his last breath in Lois's arms. All the world grieved for Superman, especially Lois and his mother. And after a couple of weeks, Lois needed someone to talk to, and I think she's now convinced that Superman is Clark. So she went to his mother, and when she knew Lois was his girlfriend, she welcomed her and offered her a drink. Meanwhile, in Metropolis, the crime and the criminals has increased, and there's no one that can do anything about it. And strangely, Luthor was sad about Superman's death. Not actually sad, he wants to kill him with his own hands. But you can call it a weird kind of sadness. Anyway, his assistant intended to tell him that any sign of LexCorp being there is erased, so he killed her as a precaution, cause now he's the only one that knew about that cave. Meanwhile, we see Toyman taking a school bus with a few children as hostages, and now there's no Superman to save them. So Lois decided to sneak to the bus and free the children. She managed to save all of them, but when she tried to get out with the last child, Toyman saw her and tried to kill her. That's when we see Superman's grave, and suddenly, he gets out alive, and he saved Lois and the child. Everybody was surprised and thanked him. Then he took Lois to get her back to her apartment. She sensed something strange about him, but he told her that he's just came back from the dead, so he will need some time. Then we see Superman going to meet Luthor. He didn't find him, so he walks in and reached a room occupied with red solar lamps. and Luthor was there, wearing gloves made out of kryptonite. Luthor starts to beat him, saying why did he leave him? They had so much unfinished business, and when he had enough, he told him a strange thing. He told him, "Good job of convincing the world you are Superman." And then Luthor leaves. He goes to another room, and we come to know what he did to Superman. He dug up his body and used his DNA to clone another programmed Superman to follow his orders, but luckily, he can't get through his memories, so Luthor doesn't know the secrets of Superman, hence he can't put that memories into the cloned one. When Clark didn't show up, Lois felt something weird. Meanwhile, Luthor finds that Superman's corpse got stolen, and he couldn't figure out who did it. But then we see Superman in a healing barrel with Kelex, and Superman has a weak pulse, and that means he is alive. When he finally woke up, Kelex told him due to his severe wounds, his biological action slowed down to make his body heal as fast as he can. Meanwhile, with fake Superman, he sees on the news that Toyman killed a child in that attack. So Superman got mad and went to Toyman, lifted him off the ground, and dropped him to fall to his death. Everyone was shocked of what Superman did, cause he didn't kill anyone before. But he told them he sees things differently now, and it's his city, and he will fight the way he wants. His mother was watching the news, and she knew right away that's not the son she raised. Superman goes to Luthor to have his next job. Luthor wasn't happy about what he did and told him he brought him through this life and can get him out of it. So when he leaves, he goes to a salon to use the mirror. He used his X-ray vision to see what's inside his head, and he found a lead ball, and the only thing that can be hidden in this ball is kryptonite. So he used his lasers and scissors to get the ball out. In the same night, we see Lois meeting Luthor. She told him she wants to know what he did to Superman, and it will be off the record cause she wants to know and move on with her life. And that's when he knew they were in a relationship. So he tried to replace Superman, but that's when she injected him with something and he passed out. She called Jerry and told him to get his camera, and then she started to look in Luthor's files, but she couldn't find anything. Meanwhile, Superman was trying to get his strength back, but that process was a little bit slow. Lois and Jerry found a locked door with a retinal scanner, so they used a passed out Luthor to open that door. They find themselves in a lab with many big tubes, each one having a fetus in it. They couldn't figure out what is that place until they find a clone of Superman, and they knew that Luthor is harvesting Superman. Luthor shows up and tries to kill them, but fake Superman saves them. When Luthor knew about disobeying orders, he tried to kill him, but the ball didn't work. Superman destroyed the whole lab cause he's the only Superman, and Luthor ran away and went to the red solar room, wear the gloves, and waited for Superman to enter. Superman stood in front of the door for a few seconds, and then he just closed the door, lifted it up, and threw it in the street. The way I see it, that was a humiliating way to die for a brilliant character like Luthor. Anyway, Superman, the real one, got 67% of his power back. And that's when Kelex told him about what's happening in Metropolis, and he decided to go, so Kelex gave him a kryptonite gun, and he wore a black solar suit to help him heal while he's flying. When he reached Metropolis, he tried to shoot Superman, but he dodged and managed to beat him up, and the gun flew to the other side of the city. The real Superman was trying very hard, but because he's not full power, he was like a poor toy in the hands of a mean child. The fake Superman was destroying the city by the real Superman. Meanwhile, Lois noticed the flying gun, and she knows it's a kryptonite gun, so she got into a car and went where the gun fell, took it back to Superman, and he managed to use his laser to blow up the capsule ammo, which luckily killed the fake Superman. But strangely, before he dies, he told the real Superman to protect the city. Lois had some doubts about the new or the real Superman and the new suit, but he was pretty convincing. The city of course needed some time to heal, and he needs time to get his reputation back, but soon all will get back to normal. And finally, we see Luthor in his wheelchair, planning for his next move, but I'm pretty sure he's not going anywhere for a while with his wheelchair and his mechanical ventilation. So, no worries. And that's when the movie ends. Thanks for watching, see you soon, and goodbye.